This was for the older kid. My wife. So so I was trying to film. I was actually trying to videotape my 5-year-old's class. My wife's like, "No, you can't do that." I was like, "I need it for my pitch deck." My wife's like, "No, you're not going to take my kid's teacher and embarrass them in front of VCs." So I had to pick something else from YouTube, which is more suitable for my older daughter. Uh, but yeah, and when you do a startup, it's kind of hard to do it alone. My first startup, I was the single founder, and it was a ton of work. And so second time around, you get wiser. I was like, I need a couple of people to share the pain. So 3 of us started the company together. One of them, Pranav, he was based in Hyderabad, and he was working at Microsoft before. And my other co-founder is a marketing person, and 3 of us we've been working together. We have around 25 people in India right now, and about 5 people in the US. So our company is about like 30 people right now. So the way the technology works really is if an educator wants to create content on any topic at all, they just need to list the name of the topic, or they provide a textbook as a PDF input, and our AI automatically scans the textbook or looks at the topic, and it auto creates slides, videos, assessments, everything. So why don't I show you a live demo of how it works? So I'm going to go to dev.profjim.com. I'll show you how it works as well. Okay. So let's say I want to create some content here. So if I want to create content on the Grand Canyon, all I do is I type in Grand Canyon, and I can indicate whether I want a basic lesson or an advanced lesson. And then I hit next. And the AI automatically comes up with subtopics related to the topic. And you can imagine this is technically not that hard, right? If you use GPT-4, the AI GPT-4 as a database, if you give a topic, it can give you a list of subtopics related to it. And then the teacher can make edits to the top subtopics and stuff. And then they hit generate lesson. And when they do that, it takes a little bit of time. So I'll show you something I've done before. It takes about 15 or 20 minutes. But what happens as a result of all that is the AI can come up with slides automatically. And it can even come up with a script for the instructor to use. And the way the script is created is if you use GPT-4 as your database and you ask GPT-4 for some content on the Grand Canyon, it'll give you like a whole bunch of paragraphs on the Grand Canyon, right? So you could essentially use a summarization algorithm to automatically create a script for the teacher. And you can use some pretty advanced prompts to do that. And you can even create slides with titles and bullet points. Titles are, after all, summaries, right? So if you use a good enough summarization algorithm, you can come up with good titles for slides, and you can come up with good bullet points for slides as well. And if you want to come up with images, what you can do is you can either get images from the internet by getting keywords from the contents of the paragraph from GPT-4, or you could auto-generate images using AI image generators like DALL-E or Midjourney or something like that. And you got to have a good algorithm for ranking the images. But essentially, all this is pretty practical. And back in 2020, all this sounded very far-fetched, and people thought I was crazy. And it was good. Not many people were working on it at that point. We filed a lot of patents on this. And the US Patent Office has given us basic patents on all this technology. So people can't copy us as much right now. But you can auto-create. You have any questions? Yeah, so there's multiple ways to tackle against hallucination. So different LLMs have different amounts of hallucination. So if you look at hallucination rates of GPT for summarization, it's close to about 3%. While if you look at Llama, which is Facebook's open source thing, it's closer to 8%. So by choosing the right LLM, you'll have less hallucination. The second thing you can do is use a multi-LLM approach, where you have a second LLM which checks and verifies the information thrown out by the first large language model. The other way to reduce hallucination is using advanced prompting. So you will find the hallucination rate goes down if you use what you call chain of thought prompting, where you ask the LLM to come up with content step by step. And then there are another technique people use is they augment LLM results with search results, and they use that for verification. So there's this company called Perplexity AI, which does some of those sorts of approaches. So the net effect of all this is you combine, it's like incremental optimization. Okay, so you keep making these optimizations, and the hallucination rate can be as little as 0.5%, but there is still hallucination. Okay, so you do need to have a teacher review content before it goes out. The one benefit of creating these sort of teacher tools is you just have to review it once. It's not, and you can use the same content with zillions of students all. So you still need to have the teacher. So the job of the teacher goes from being a content producer to becoming a content editor. And I'll show you some data on how much time savings teachers can get with technology like this. And we can even have assessments, and we have do you know statements here as well. And the other thing we've got is once you have the slides and the script, you can just hit finalize lesson, and the AI automatically creates a video out of it. And the way it happens is you have a teacher whom you select. This one here is Abraham Lincoln, the former US president. And so we can use AI to put expressions on the character's face. And the way that happens is you have the script, you have all the sentences in the script. You can use a sentiment analysis algorithm to figure out what emotions the teacher has to say. And I find the teachers here often can be more expressive than some of us even. So it's kind of cool. So why don't I show you one video which is generated using technology like this. So why don't we have Marco Polo talk about the Silk Road?
Hi there, I'm Marco Polo, the trading traveler from Venice. I traveled through dangerous deserts and met with kings. But my greatest achievement was bringing pasta to Italy. Now, let's talk about the Silk Road, or what I like to call the OG internet.
But do you notice how AI is used to create scenes in the background?
However, some merchants living in the Parthian Empire heard about this textile, strong and soft cloth from China, and they wanted it. So they started an ambitious trading network that would last over 1,000 years. And silk was just a part of it.
So one of the key things here is we actually have questions and assessments in the middle. So this here is something about the Silk Road. And there's a map of the Silk Road. It's some piece of interactive content which a student can actually play with. And
Kashgar.
I'll show you one more.
Let's do a quick concept check. Which empire heard about the production of silk from China and initiated a trading network?
So there's questions asked in the middle, because there's a lot of studies which show the YouTube approach to teaching, where you just listen to someone talk. Traditional lecturing is not as good as something more interactive, where the student plays with the content itself. So one of the interesting things you notice even from this video is it just transforms the way you teach history. So when we studied history, 20 years back, we were reading these textbooks and it was full of text content. With teaching like this, you can use AI to recreate scenes from history. So we have, for example, some classes on ancient Greece, where we can actually reproduce scenes of ancient Greece using AI. And the students get a lot better impression of history compared to, just reading text in a textbook. So these AI generated images are getting more and more realistic now as well. Yes. So I think the change GPT made was we still had summarization techniques, but the hallucination rates were a lot higher. This is the first time we are actually able to summarize this well. And the key insight with this company was I'd seen GPT-2, which had about like 1 billion parameters. And then GPT-3 had 175 billion. And it was pretty clear as you went from 2 to 3, the quality of the results you got was much better. So it seemed like when you had GPT-4, which had like 100x more parameters, it could be used for a lot more applications. And it's kind of following, I'm a VLSI guy, so I think of it like Moore's law, every year or two, you're having, 10 to 100x more parameters, and the quality of these large language models are getting better and better. So if you just dream and think about what happens in 6 years, the kind of stuff you can do with this sort of AI, it's going to be incredible. Like one new application it could enable is, my kid doesn't speak Tamil, which is my mother tongue, because they just speak in English in school and they never learned Tamil. But you could imagine in 4 or 5 years, my kid could be speaking in English and it could be real-time translated into Tamil, because this sort of LLM is getting better and better. Please go ahead. Yeah, so the way you generate images with all this is you look at the narration, you look at what you're trying to explain with that slide. You try to find some keywords related to what you're explaining. And you can use the keywords for either a Google image search, or you could smartly come up with a prompt, which helps you search through a AI image generator and generate an image as well. You could have, that's why we always give 4 image options to a user. The teacher who reviews and creates the content, excuse me, picks one of the 4 images. And we find the image quality is pretty good if we use this algorithm. Yeah. So if you look at the quality of the images out here in this particular, it's pretty good. It's excellent. They're getting really good quality images. And there's a human review process to change things if something doesn't work out great as well. No, but then if you can auto-generate images using AI image generators, it's incredibly powerful. So yeah. So there's so much work going on in automatic image generation right now. So some of the algorithms they use, stable diffusion is one of the tools a lot of people use for generating images. And I think right now there's a craze for text and images, but in the next couple of years, you're going to see video become more and more powerful as well. People think in 10 years' time, Hollywood would be making movies using AI. Not you're already seeing Harrison Ford, up here younger in his latest Indiana Jones movie. Soon in 5 years' time, Rajinikanth's going to look 20 without makeup. So, yeah. So there's a few for image generators. The most common ones is one called Midjourney. which is producing really high quality images. DALI is OpenAI's image generator, and AWS just came up with its own image generation tool called Titan. So there's a bunch of these image generation tools now available. It's more or less becoming a commodity right now, doing all this. So yeah, let me move forward here. Yeah, you could. And you can have tests auto-graded with all this kind of technology as well. So I showed that, and so there's actually some thinking behind designing the education experience this way. One of them is this whole concept of interactive content. There's literature which shows 50% fewer students fail class if it's interactive lesson where students answer questions or do programming assignments compared to a lecturing thing where one person's talking. So if you look at the data here, the percentage of students who fail class when it's active learning instead of lecturing, you'll notice 50% fewer failure rates. And that's why we try to have interactive content every 3 minutes or 4 minutes in a typical lesson. And this informs even how we teach in colleges and universities, right? The more interactive you can make it, the more students participate in things, the better they're going to learn. So another thing is we use these avatars for teaching, and there's some science behind that as well. So we did some experiments where on the left, we had Charles Darwin describe the digestive system. On the right, it was just a voice describing the digestive system. Because if you look at a lot of online classes, some professors don't like showing their faces on camera on Zoom. So you just hear a voice in the background teaching. And so when we did the study and we surveyed 200 students, 67% of them preferred, a face of a professor teaching compared to just a voice teaching. But the learning outcomes were very similar in both cases. So what the research indicates is that students actually get social cues. When they have a professor smiling and teaching, they feel more engaged in the class, they feel better about the class, but the face can sometimes be a distraction. So because people sometimes focus too much on the professor's face and not on the content itself. That's why you notice the learning outcomes don't change that much, but the students seem to have a better experience showing the face of the teacher. What we try to do is whenever we have heavy duty content where the student has to really understand something, we just make the voice explain it so that the face doesn't distract the student. But when it's not a dense slide, having the avatar come in and explain things actually helps. We've also done studies where we've had teachers speak at different speeds and we've seen how the learning outcomes change based on how fast the professor speaks. Interestingly, when people study online, they often speed up the videos to finish the video faster. That actually hurts learning outcomes. Students don't do as well when they speed through an online class, but when the professor speaks slower, the learning outcomes actually improve, even though it takes longer to do the class. So that's another study we've done. We've also done studies where we've compared Aristotle teaching philosophy to, an unknown teacher like John Smith teaching philosophy, and students prefer to listen to Aristotle teach philosophy than have like a regular teacher teach philosophy as well. That's one thing. And then sometimes the looks of the teacher make a difference, believe it or not. If you have a good looking teacher, then students pay more attention in class. It's sad but true. So you can actually study all this. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so we had Aristotle speak in English, and the purists are not very happy with that because he wasn't supposed to know English. Yeah, he spoke American English when we did the testing. So anyway, we've done more studies as well. So we actually compared a human teacher teaching with the avatar teaching, and we measured learning outcomes. And we took two different teachers. One teacher was more charismatic, was a better presenter, and the AI was only slightly better than the more charismatic teacher. With the regular teacher, the AI was much better. So these AIs, it's still early days for the technology, okay, but these are competitive with regular human teachers screencasting themselves. So you can imagine in 5 or 10 years, all this technology might impact the way all of us are taught. And when the human teacher uses the AI to make slides and you have the AI avatar presenting, the students considered it more engaging compared to just the human teacher creating the slides and presenting themselves. And the time needed for the professor went down by a factor of 15 for creating the slides and the video. So you can imagine professors can spend more time doing research compared to, creating beautiful looking slide decks using technology like this. The student feedback's been pretty good. And in terms of applications, okay, so there's a bunch of go ahead, please. No, we do science and maths as well. I'll show you some examples of this. So we're now working with 5 of the 10 biggest textbook publishers in the US, and we generate a whole lot of content with them. It's amazing how quickly all this technology is being picked up by the industry. So there's many use cases of this sort of technology. Okay, so this one is Abraham Lincoln teaching about the Gettysburg Address, and I'll show you why this is interesting. When you have a classroom with 25 people, often the different students they're operating at different levels. Some students might want the teacher to explain slowly, while some students might be somewhat familiar with the content and they might want the professor to explain faster. And right now, when you have a classroom with 25 students like this, it's hard to make everyone happy. One of the benefits of AI like this, it can lead to a personalized experience. So the students who want to go slow can go slow. The students who want to go fast can go fast. So I'll show you one example of how that's used here.
Greetings, fellow Americans. I'm Abraham Lincoln. Rumors tell me that my Gettysburg Address has left quite a legacy. Indeed, I've had some time to consider why this might be. Allow me to explain. But first, take a moment to familiarize yourself with the text.
So this is the Gettysburg Address, which is pretty famous in the US.
What style of presentation would you like?
So the students can actually choose if they want like a memorable story. All of us love professors who tell stories, but storytelling sometimes takes more time. And there are some people who want something quick. So the student can choose if they want something short and crisp or if they want a professor who tells stories. So if they pick the short and crisp version, they get played, different sorts of video content, which is more short and crisp. Yeah.
Let me now explain some elements of my address.
So this allows you to have personalized learning, which students can go home and get a more personalized experience as well. And other use cases of this sort of technology are, they're used by a bunch of special education providers. So 10% of students in the US suffer from dyslexia or ADHD, where you're not able to read regular textbooks or regular books that easily. For those sorts of students, a bunch of these special education providers actually work with us, and instead of the student struggling through the reading, you can actually create a video version of that book where an avatar is actually reading the book aloud to them. You can add more pictures, auto-generate those pictures, and create pictures as well to better appeal to kids with dyslexia or ADHD as well. So this was a book created for students with dyslexia.
Things happened later that didn't happen. Nick and Janet Fitz had missed the bus because of a school newspaper meeting, so they walked home together. They were seeing who could walk along the curb
And
without.
so we're seeing some pretty significant learning outcome improvements for kids with dyslexia using technology like this as well. Another example of this is when you have technology create content in English, AI is now advanced to a point where you can convert to other languages. And in countries like India, let's say you have a class at IISc where someone's teaching in English. If you can use AI to auto-convert it into native Indian languages like Hindi and Marathi and Tamil and all, you can reach a lot more people. So we're able to do that right now with AI. And these avatars, because they're using AI to lip sync, it's pretty easy to convert it to another language and have the lip sync work well. So that's another use case all this enables as well. The other use case we've seen this technology enable is textbooks right now. A lot of textbook publishers in the US are finding today's kids, Gen Z, people of age 10 to 25, they prefer video compared to reading traditional textbooks. That's why there's a craze for people to be on YouTube and TikTok. And video is just so much richer, right? It's kind of like once you eat sugar, you can't eat regular food. And video is like sugar. Once you've tasted video, it's kind of hard to go to a format like reading. And that trend's being felt throughout the US. And so what a lot of textbook publishers do is they give us their textbooks and we auto-convert it into videos. And the value of that is, if you can imagine, Coursera has like 5,000 courses and it's valued at $2 billion, while a textbook publisher like McGraw-Hill has 200,000 books. Even if they convert a fraction of that into video courses automatically, that's a bigger market than Coursera. So there's a huge economic opportunity there to convert textbooks automatically into courses. Yeah, for sure. And so we've also done learning outcome studies where we had a bunch of students read through a textbook, and we took that textbook and auto-converted it into the video. And we gave students 10 questions at the end of both the textbook and the video. And with the video, the learning outcomes were much better. So students seem to learn better through video than reading traditional textbooks, as you can imagine. And so we've got a bunch of good feedback there. And so in terms of where all this is going, we've got a bunch of patents. We're selling the product in the market. And we've got a bunch of awards as well. This is a whole new space. When you do a startup, you want to be number one or number two in a big size market. And so the education market, so far, all the analysts are rating us pretty high on all this. There's really no one else doing what we're doing right now in education market. We won awards and we've been rated among the top edtech companies as well this year. So in the long term, you might ask, hey, our professor is going to have a job. Our teacher is going to have a job when all this becomes more mature. And the answer to that, I believe we'll always have teachers, and teachers will have jobs, because learning is more of a social thing. Like my 5-year-old, I would rather have her sit in a class with 10 others and learn compared to just sitting in front of a computer all day and learn. And the other thing which is happening in the US is, in the US, education is free. And it's hard to compete with any sort of technology. So, and in the US, at least, when kids go to school, teachers don't like to admit it, but they're really babysitters as well, because they take care of kids too. And so it's very hard to compete with all these dynamics. So you're going to have teachers in schools teaching even 10 years from now. But what AI will be used for doing is, it will help the teachers create content. It will help them grade homework. If a teacher has to take a day off, you'd have a video recording play, like some schools are doing with us even right now. And where AI will be used, I believe, is you'll have tutors at home. Right now, so as these AIs get faster and faster, you will have a tutor who who's kind of giving real-time answers to student questions. So if a student goes home and has a doubt about a certain topic, the student can just speak with the AI tutor and get a response back real time. And that sort of technology isn't too far away. As this AI gets faster and faster, as it hallucinates less and less, you're going to have real-time responses to student questions. You can have this tutor at home teaching as well. And one big movement we see in the US at least is a lot of people want to start working earlier, and they want to do master's degrees online and stuff when they're working in a company. And we're going to see more and more of that happen online. And you would have these real-time tutors teach online. So you might have an avatar of, say, Parimal or Bharatwaj teach online. Now, we are actually able to create avatars of people with 3 photos of them and 10 minutes of their voice, even right now. So, yeah, you can get royalties. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, so that's a little bit about what we're doing. Yeah, go ahead, please. So, see, the thing with robotics right now, the next 10 years, I believe we'll see a lot more robots than we have right now. Uh, uh, Simply because what's happened the last 2 or 3 years is because of the advances in AI, you're able to see robots navigate around buildings much better compared to before. Yeah, but these robots, they cost a lot of money right now. It's going to be 10 years before that sort of technology becomes more prevalent. It's kind of hard to tell what will happen in 10 years, to be honest. Technology is moving so quickly right now. Yeah, it is pretty expensive, but there are a lot of companies right now trying to build a home robot assistant, which can walk around your house, which can talk. So you're starting to see those emerge in the US in the Valley. People are first starting to use it for elder care because there's a lot of people who are 80 or 90 years old in the US. And unlike in India, where the culture is they stay with their kids, in the US, they stay alone. So a lot of people are developing these robots for elder care applications. And with time, as the price goes down more and more, you're going to see more generic robot servants in homes. Google has a big project on that. Tesla is trying to build a robot as well, which could be used for those sorts of applications. So you'll start seeing those the next 5 years. Yeah. Yes. Right now, it's too long, to be honest. It takes like 20, 30 minutes. If it's nighttime in the US, it's faster because fewer people are using GPT-4. But our hope is that in the next year, we bring it down to less than 10 minutes. Yeah. So in terms of if any of you are interested in working on this sort of stuff after graduation, we have lots of openings. We keep hiring. So just reach out to me. It's deepak@profjim.com. And we are always open to getting good people who want to do research. You mean the face? No, so for a lot of the people consuming this sort of content, they're below the age of 15. They actually like it when it's a bit fake. Gen Z somehow seems to like these avatars a lot. And the avatars are getting more and more realistic with time. So I think over the next year, you won't be able to tell whether it's real or fake. It's still early days for the technology. Yeah. Yeah, so for summarization algorithms, GPT is already pretty well optimized. So for summarization, you don't need to fine tune, but people do use what you call one-shot or two-shot learning to get better numbers. Uh, Even for sentiment analysis, that's one of the core things GPT-4 does well. So you don't have to specially tailor it, but the places where GPT needs a lot of work is just like a lot of people have trouble with mathematics, even these AIs have trouble with maths. So those are places where you got to fine tune things better. It's just so expensive to fine tune nowadays with GPT-4. GPT 3.5 costs, it's got fewer parameters. It costs less to fine tune, but the hallucination rates are too high. So yeah, you'll see as you go to GPT 5 and 6, people will use it more and more without any fine tuning because it's just so costly to fine tune these models, these neural networks. Any other questions? Yes. Oh, so we charge about $3,500 for 4 hours of video. And so yeah, so we just work with the educational institution and we develop it with them. With some educational institutions, we just do a revenue share. So, the institution doesn't have to pay anything. They work with us to develop the content. And then whatever money they make, they give us like a percentage of that, like 10, 15% of it or something. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
How realistic is it in terms of costing to if you are like not subsidized in some way? How far are we from?
It actually doesn't cost too much even right now. Thanks to Satya Nadella giving all this money to OpenAI, it doesn't cost much. I think OpenAI takes losses every time people use their models. And they're doing that because, see, it's all a data race, okay? So uh, just like Google got all the search, got the monopoly in search, with all these AIs, they use reinforcement learning based on human feedback. And when you use ChatGPT, you're essentially training OpenAI's AI models, and that's why they're subsidizing it right now. And they've got so much data right now; it's very hard for others to compete with them. So that's why you're seeing subsidies and such low prices. The model for all these companies is everyone's following the Amazon model. Okay, so they want to get scale. Amazon got scale. They are the only big retailer in town in the US at least. And then they hike up prices. So if you think about Kindle books, initially Kindle books were much less compared to paper books, but now Kindle books cost as much as paper books because there's no competition now. And so that's essentially the model even for these AI models. They're subsidizing it till they get so much human feedback that it's impossible for others to compete with them. And after that, they're going to hike prices and then they're going to make more money. So that's the model. Just like that was Uber's model as well. Uber, they wanted to get scale. They wanted to be number one in the car driving business. And once they got scale, they started hiking up prices. So it's traditional Silicon Valley economics. Yeah, so the biggest cost with all this is GPUs, because we use GPUs pretty aggressively when we put expressions on the teacher's face. Uh, and we were using cloud services for a while. And the thing is, if you use GPUs from a cloud provider, it often is 4x more expensive than having your own on-premise servers. And the cloud providers are playing the same game, right? They gave subsidies to everyone until the whole world started using cloud, and then now they're hiking up prices, so they turn profitable. So yeah, we're using on-prem servers right now, but that's one of the main cost challenges, the cost of GPUs. Thank you.
So, we have now quite a few customers using it.
Yeah. So we've got about 25 customers. We should be